Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Maybe a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at things. It didn't look so promising for us, but now that comes to the best baseball of the year, and we have an opportunity here with the series at home, and then we have an opportunity to compete in the SEC tournament next week. If we can pile up a few wins, I think we'll have a really good chance to be in there.
We've had trouble from the seventh inning on with the relief pitching, and and our defense hasn't been all that good, and so we've got to do a little better job on those two aspects, and I feel a lot better than I did a month ago.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us here on a lovely Thursday afternoon from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, all together once again as we head down the stretch of the baseball regular season for colleges, tournament action next week, and then selection Monday, and we're into the NCAA tournament. Who is going to make it? From South Carolina, College of Charleston, Coastal Carolina, their locks, USC, Clemson, they are not. The Tigers are underway in their game this afternoon, or just about to get underway in their game this afternoon down in Tallahassee against Florida State. South Carolina, 7 o'clock tonight. We'll get underway against LSU. College of Charleston has already lost today, K-Mac, up in Northeastern, up in Boston.
That was a tough one.
That is a big loss for them.
Yeah, Northeastern has a losing record, and the Cougars went to extra innings, and they took a 2-run lead in the top half of the 10th, and in the bottom, they gave up 3 runs to lose 5-4. So that is a blow for the Cougars. They're still 39-11, but they're probably going to have to win out to make sure that they have a shot to lock up that host spot in a regional. If not, they're going to be on the road, and Coastal probably has to win out too to have a shot at a host regional.
Coastal playing at Campbell starting tonight in the Big South. Looking at Clemson's lineup for their game against Florida State tonight, pretty much per normal. Robert Jolly again will be the DH in the 6 hole, and Weston Wilson will start at third base. Andrew Cox will start again at first base. Everybody else is pretty much Matthew Crownover for the Tigers, 9-1, having a phenomenal season, a 1.3 ERA. He will be opposed by Boomer Bigowski, 5-3, a right-hander, 3.21 ERA. So the Tigers and the Seminoles and it's a huge series for Clemson and for Jack Leggett for many, many reasons.
It'll be interesting to see what Clemson does. I know they dug themselves out of an abyss against Furman, but you don't want to fall behind Florida State early. So I think it would behoove Clemson to really if you get 3 runs on the board early at least, and Crown over on the mound, I like your chances.
Absolutely. Florida State, of course, ranked in the top 10. They're 37-16. They're 17-10 in the league. They lead the all-time series 70-60-1 in Tallahassee, 37-16-1, and they've won the last 2 against the Tigers. Trey Dyson, former Gamecock baseball slugger, is going to join us a little bit. Yeah, coming up at the bottom of the hour, former Gamecock slugging first baseman Trey Dyson, now a television analyst, mostly on USC broadcasts. Does he do any other broadcasts besides the Gamecocks? Do they send him anywhere else to do games?
I think he's pretty much a Gamecock.
Pretty much a Gamecock through and through. He'll join us to talk about the Gamecocks and LSU and Clemson's plight and everything else around the college baseball world here at this stage of the season. That's what we have coming up for you. If you would like to join us, we invite you to at 800-956-7266. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Have you made anybody else mad today on Twitter, K-Mac?
No, there's some people last night that were getting a little goofy, South Carolina fans that wanted to, for whatever reason, knock Dylan Thompson. Knock
Dylan Thompson.
I don't know why you want to kick a guy on his way out the door. There was somebody that was questioning his leadership, which is one of the most insane things that I've seen on Twitter in a while, and that's saying something. To question Dylan Thompson's leadership did completely unravel last year. And somebody called him a marginal talent. This is a guy that led the SEC in passing and broke USC's passing record for a single season. So, I mean, if that's a marginal quarterback, fine. I don't think anybody's ready to hand Dylan Thompson a Heisman Trophy. He's probably never going to play a snap in the NFL. He's not Connor Shaw, but no one's trying to compare him to that. But Dylan, if it were not for 2 fourth-quarter collapses, he would have been a 9-win quarterback last year. It wasn't his fault that they lost against Kentucky. Somebody was just dead set on blaming Dylan Thompson for the Kentucky loss. I was there. Yes, he had 3 interceptions in that game, 2 in that fourth quarter, 1 on the deflected pass. But they had 38 points in that game. They were up 38. They were up 14 in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes to play, and they couldn't stop the Wildcat. That was not. I watched Dylan Thompson come back against Florida. He had the big win against Georgia, big win against East Carolina in the fourth quarter, big win against Miami. Dylan Thompson should not be anything other than beloved by Gamecock fans and thanked. And I think it's wrong to bash the guy on the way out the door like they're bashing Connor Mitch on his way in the door. This guy hasn't taken a played in a significant game yet, and he's being trashed, and people are saying, why aren't they bringing in Everett Golson? Maybe because the coaches trust their recruiting.
Twitter's the cockroach of the media world.
Well, and I'm right there with them. I'm the raid.
Let's face it. Right now,
I don't know if you're strong enough. They have various strengths. You better be the extra strength.
I've got the industrial strength.
Right now, Dabo Swinney is looking for a Dylan Thompson. In other words, every time, what I'm saying is every time Connor Shaw went down, who came in to help the team carry the day?
Yeah, Nick Schuster had the best Pascal of any quarterback in history during the spring.
They feel good about Nick.
And he looked pretty good in the spring game.
That's why I'm saying you don't knock a guy who can come in cold because the guy is cold-cocked and play football.
One thing about Dylan Thompson, man, when he came off the bench, he could make a big play. He would throw. He could hit the deep ball. How many plays did he make in the passing game?
He threw more relief role. Yeah, well, he came off the bench and started the entire game at Clemson and won that game. Had the big play in the Outback Bowl where they won that game. Had the game-winning touchdown pass. I get that fans are disappointed and quarterbacks get too much of the blame, but when guys are out the door, and he was a first-class guy on and off the field, those are the kind of guys you should be thankful for. Pat them on the back and say, man, I hope we recruit 10 more Dylan Thompsons, because you could do a lot worse. And you know what? You might be begging for the days of Dylan Thompson 6 games into this year.
There you go. You're blasting Connor Mitch.
I'm not. I'm just saying,
like the cockroaches
you don't always appreciate things until they are gone.
Well, you know why they didn't appreciate it?
Lorenzo Nunez.
Because he was only a 2-star. Once a 2-star, always.
Well, there's something about that, because he was labeled by some fat slob sitting in his den looking at grainy video on his laptop as a 2-star. That was his label for the rest of his college life. Rest of his college. Can you believe it? How could so many people
How many
be so
stars
wrong?
was Connor Shaw? He couldn't have been more than 3.
3.
Stephon Curry. I'm watching Stephon Curry get the MVP award.
Stephon Curry? I mean, if you're going to talk about the MVP of the NBA,
Stephen
will
Curry.
you at least get his name right?
It's always been Stephen.
No,
It's
never been. It's Stephen who's not that far away from where Steph Curry
he was labeled what, a 3-star, a 2-star, 3-star guy coming out of high school. How could so many people be so wrong? Not just the raters, but the coaches too. I mean,
he went
at that point, of course, maybe it was a case where he was physically immature coming out of high school, and his body didn't develop until he got a couple of years in the college.
I watched him play. I watched him play at the Chick-fil-A Classic at Richland Northeast High School here in Columbia, and he could flat fill it up then. And I remember asking
but I've seen a lot of high school scorers.
He was special. I mean, and to the point where I'm asking people where are the college guys? He's too small. Yeah. He's too small to play major college basketball. Well, he wasn't. At Davidson, he lit it up. Yeah, maybe he grew another inch or two, but shouldn't you factor that in if you're a coach? I mean, if a guy can shoot, he can shoot. And he could, I don't think they thought he could make his own shot the way he does in the NBA. Mm-hmm. He had great pedigree, obviously. Everybody knows who his dad is. That's a huge miss.
I think probably that helps a lot of athletes when you mislabel them. That makes them work harder. But, if you know who his dad is, and if he had any touch like his dad, Del Curry is the only guy I saw. And Corn, we saw him at the Coliseum when South Carolina was in the Metro. He was the only one that had the green light to pull up on a 3-on-1 break and take a 30-footer and just bottom. And this was before the 3-point shot. He could be probably the all-time career scorer at Virginia Tech if they had the 3-pointer in.
All right, underway, Clemson and Florida State, and Tigers batting in the top of the first. There is no score. That game is on ESPN3 if you want to check it out. South Carolina and LSU coming up a little bit later on tonight, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and 8 o'clock on Saturday night. And tonight and Sunday, it's the SEC Network. And tomorrow night, it is ESPNU. Dave Neal and Kyle Peterson coming in to work these 3 games on television. South Carolina 31-22, 12-15 in the SEC. LSU a hefty 44-8, 19-7 in the league. Tonight's pitching matchup: Jack Wynkoop 8-4, 2.83 ERA for USC, a junior left-hander, against Jared Poche, a sophomore left-hander, 7-1, 2.87 ERA. We told you the rest of the pitching for LSU last night. They'll have a couple of freshmen going on Friday and Saturday. South Carolina will go with whoever has a rested enough arm, because everybody's on deck to pitch.
I'm
for South
sure
Carolina.
Tonight's game plan is hand the ball to Wynkoop and tell him to give it back to him after the game.
Well, he's he 131 pitches a couple of weeks ago. He threw 120 something pitches, right around 120 something pitches at Texas A&M last time out. So yeah, they're putting themselves on his big shoulders and saying, carry us as far as you can. This LSU team, mighty potent with a .319 batting average, 43 home runs. They steal bases as well. Overall, LSU leads the series 32-24-1. And last time these two teams played was in Baton Rouge in 2013, and the Gamecocks won 2 out of 3 back then, 4-0, 4-2, and LSU won a game there 5-2. Last time in Columbia, LSU won the series 2-1. The Gamecocks need to win the series. Nothing less is going to do for them in terms of their postseason hopes. They need every win they can get at the very least. They got to get 2 wins this weekend. Win on Tuesday in Hoover, and then take advantage of that extra game, and then go into the main draw of the SEC tournament and see if you can hang around for a couple of days and get another win. Get at least 2, maybe 3 wins in the SEC tournament. If you don't make it all the way to the championship round, at least get 3 more wins to add to your resume. If they win 2 here, 3 there, that's 5 more wins. That'll give them 36 wins against 23, 25 losses is what it will turn out to be. That might be enough to get them in. Okay, we're back on Sports Games. 800-956-7266 is the number. If you want to join us, Clemson and Florida State in the bottom of the first now. Clemson, still top of the first, and Clemson has a runner on first with 2 out. Duggar walked for Clemson, so the Tigers are on against Florida State in the top of the first. Important that you strike early and as much as you can when you're on the road in this kind of situation. Build some confidence and see if you can build yourself a little bit of an early lead. Also, NCAA football attendance, and Ohio State led the country, 106,296 average. That's over capacity there at Ohio Stadium. Texas A&M 105,123. Clemson, let's see, this is a ranking of what? 1, 2, 3,
15.
4, 5, 6. Is this 15?
Uh-huh.
Clemson was 15th at 81,752. That's over capacity. And South Carolina, I wonder if they finished 16th. They don't list them.
16.
They were next
in order.
Yeah, they were next on the list here. They do not list their. This was on CBSSports.com.
Yeah.
So USC was right there, probably about 16.
Because they said the bottom round out the top 30.
Right. SEC led the nation in total attendance, averaging 77,694 per game. The Big Ten was next, and the Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC averaging 50,291. But the other story here, the backstory, is that attendance dropped. Mm-hmm. Overall college football attendance dropped. How much did you read that?
I didn't see that part of it.
Yeah, it is. Well, here it is right here. Overall, Division I FBS teams saw an average of 1,002 fewer fans attend home games last season. Average neutral site attendance was down 2,500. Average bowl game attendance was down 4,600. Doesn't matter. They don't care.
Now, here's the question.
As long as they're getting the television money, doesn't matter who's in the seats. You're buying the tickets. Season ticket sales, are up at places like South Carolina and Clemson and many other places. So they're getting the money in the bank. If you don't show up to fill the seats, they could care less.
Well, my question is this: how much is the attendance affected by, for instance, little things that we don't think about, like teams with smaller stadiums, Georgia Southern and Appalachian State going to Division I?
Or Wake Forest.
Or
Vanderbilt.
I think the bigger thing is the people, Alabama students that get tickets for free at some of these SEC schools aren't going. And you look at the younger generation, they're on their phones constantly. Self-service is awful inside these stadiums. You can't get on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and and that's a big factor. And they can stay out and play cornhole and drink in their coolers and have bathrooms. And a lot of these kids, they just would assume not go inside the stadiums anymore. That's my point.
I'm telling young people, show me you're not addicted to that darn phone by going in somewhere where you can't.
You better get Wi-Fi in all the stadiums. That's because they won't go. I know. I mean,
they don't have that.
Millennials, not all of them.
right, back on Sports Talk. Trey Dyson will join us in just a moment. Let me update a couple of things. Florida State, Clemson, scoreless in the bottom of the first. Florida State runner on first, and there are 2 away. The NCAA men's golf tournament began today. Clemson is playing at the Chapel Hill Regional. The Tigers are tied for third after shooting .284. They are 9 shots back of Charlotte. Billy Kennerly led the Tigers with a 67. They are tied with Florida State at .284, and Florida is at .281. South Carolina is playing out in Washington State in Bremerton, Washington, and the Gamecocks are tied for second. They shot a .281 total to tie TCU. They are a shot behind UAB, and it's okay, Corn, learn how to read. That's Southern Cal. Back it up. The Gamecocks are 6th at .288. .288, so they're 8 shots out of the lead. My bad. And Matthew Neesmith and Sean Kelly led the Gamecocks at the 71 each. So UAB leads. They didn't drop their golf team. They dropped football, but not golf. TCU is a shot back, along with Southern Cal. Iowa State is tied for 4th with Washington at .287, and then the Gamecocks are in 6th place. And we have 2 other teams in regionals. In the Lubbock Regional out in Texas, we've got Charleston Southern is in 10th at .286, 13 shots out of the lead. And in New Haven, we've got the College of Charleston team, and they are in 12th, 303 total, and they are .281 is your leader. So they are 22 shots out of the lead. There you go with the NCAA regionals. Now we welcome in former Gamecock Trey Dyson, no doubt gearing up for the Gamecocks' big weekend here against LSU, which actually begins tonight, an early weekend. Trey, good to have you with us as always. We appreciate it, and it's the old back to the wall time for this USC baseball team. It's been a long time since USC finds itself in this kind of situation where it's kind of a must-win every game out in terms of the NCAA tournament.
First was that Patrick Reed and Robert Streb were actually leading up in Charlotte, North Carolina in the PGA tournament.
Well, thank you. We were going to get to that later on.
I'm just joking.
I'm glad you were paying attention to that. But, yeah, they actually shot Robert Streb is now your leader at 7 under, 65.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, you know what? It's good to be playing the best baseball at the right time of the year, which is right now. And you got guys like Marcus Mooney and Hunter Taylor and Clark Scalamaro getting in there, kind of shaking things up. Alex Vecino starting to hit home runs again. And, pitching, we got a really tough task with LSU, but Jack Weinkoop has just been tremendous over the last 4 weeks. So the lineup, this lineup can do some big things, as you've seen over the past 5 games. And certainly their backs are against the wall, but if they compete like they've been competing here over the past week or so, I really think that they could make some noise in the tournament for sure. But the key is obviously getting into the tournament, which starts with taking the series from LSU this weekend. Yeah,
and you mentioned the lineup and some of the guys who are doing well, and Max Schrock is going to start tonight. Tell you what, they're holding this guy together with glue and duct tape and staples and whatever else. But they just seem to be a better team when he's in the lineup.
Well, he certainly lengthens the lineup unlike any other hitter on their team, because he's truly their best pure hitter from just a hitting standpoint. Obviously, Kyle Martin has had a great year, but pure hitter-wise, Max Schrock is the best hitter the Gamecocks have. So, and also too, he's hurt, but I've seen him play when he's hurt. The way he's playing hurt right now, he's still moving around really well. He's still taking some good quick swings. So I think if he's hurt, then I'll take that all day long, because he looks pretty good to me.
What have you seen from some of these young guys who've all of a sudden stepped it up, like Scalamaro and Hunter Taylor, who's taken over the catcher's job? What kind of kind of development have you seen in those guys? And Destino, who's starting to hit the ball kind of like they hoped he would.
Yeah, Destino is certainly, obviously probably got the biggest upside out of all those guys. And he started off on fire, kind of struggling out of the lineup for, off and on. And it's too hard to play whenever you don't get consistent at bats. He made a decision a couple weeks ago to just go ahead and let him play. That was actually the Vanderbilt series when we won 2 out of 3, to go ahead and play him against right-handers and left-handers. And it's really, he didn't tear it up, so to speak, but it's really starting to pay dividends now as he's hit a couple of home runs over the past couple games. And to be able to get another run producer in that lineup is so key, because there's only so much that Kyle Martin and Elliott Caldwell can do. You need other guys. You mentioned Hunter Taylor. Hunter Taylor's a really good athlete, but sometimes fails to make adjustments at the plate. Over the past couple weeks, Brian Busher's really been working with him about making adjustments, moving off the plate a little bit, and not just going down swinging at 3 straight sliders out of the zone, like make an adjustment. And he's certainly been doing that. Clark Scalamaro, he's got great quick hands, a quick runner, and he competes, and he puts together great at-bats as well. And to have him in the 9-hole to be like a second leadoff hitter for, because Gene might be the best hitter right now, but at least he's still getting on base. Those guys can get on base, and, you're going to score some runs with guys like Kyle Martin and Elliott Caldwell and Matt Schrock. I mean, it's a winning lineup if they compete and play hard.
Well, it seems at least recently, Trey, that the team has gotten a little bit more aggressive on the base pass. Have you discerned that has helped the aggressiveness of the hitters at the plate as well?
Well, obviously whenever you're doing a hit and run, it's going to force the hitter to swing, and they have been doing that a little bit more. This team has stolen the most bases since 2002, a team that I was on, which is good because, they are aggressive. Whenever you're aggressive on the base pass, it puts tons of pressure on the opposing team, because it's always something that they've got to think about and take into consideration. And, we don't have many fast runners, but we have really smart runners. I mean, Kyle Martin, who's got Elliott Caldwell, they're not the fastest guys in the world, but they have great awareness on the base paths. They're good base runners, which is more important than fast base runners. And so, maybe I'm a little too optimistic. Call me a homer if you want to, but I really like the dynamic. The dynamic of the lineup right now with the way Coach Holbrook has it set up.
What'd you have, 30 or 40 stolen bases in that 2002 season?
Came back.
You're trying to remember how I know you were right up there. I think you were pushing for Brian Roberts' stolen base record that year, as I recall.
Yeah, I was going for it, and Coach Henry had to put the brakes on me pretty soon after I got thrown out one time, and he asked me why I went. I said I thought I had the green light.
Yeah.
Anyway. That got shut down early in my career, but, I was pretty close to him. I tell people, or I said this on the broadcast the other night, that 2002 team that had as many stolen bases as, this team this year, I had 100% more stolen bases than Brian Busher that season.
All right, let me ask you very quickly before we say goodbye. 30 seconds. Your honest opinion here at this point. South Carolina, do they make the NCAA tournament?
You know what? This is going to say yes, because we play great at home. We're on a roll. Our lineup is showing a pulse where we got some good players in who don't go down easily. And Jack Weinkoop is going to get us off to a great start here tonight. So, yeah, if you win 2 out of 3 from LSU, which is what I'm predicting, then, of course, you're going to make the tournament.
15 seconds. Does Clemson make the tournament?
Clemson, I honestly haven't followed Clemson ever since they came here and ramroded us with Brody Kerner, who's apparently had a terrible season. But I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But Carolina will make it.
Not that you're a homer or anything,
I don't know what he's going to do around anymore. That was Trey's
punching bag.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trey. We appreciate it. We'll be talking to you more should the Gamecocks make the NCAA tournament. Maybe next week at the SEC tournament, should they stay in there long enough, get past the Tuesday play-in game. We'll be right back. right, time for the Braves. We played against Sports off Bauer Parkway in Columbia. You'll pay less for more by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals, and by Mattress by Appointment. Real simple. You call and you save 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. Call 803-530-8549. As we welcome Mike Morgan to the program, let me tell you that Florida State, thanks to a solo home run by Busby, has taken a 1-0 lead on Clemson in the bottom of the second inning. Crown over on the mound for the Tigers. As we welcome Mike to the program, and the Braves wrap up their stay in Cincinnati on a down note last night. Another loss, another series defeat as well, Mike.
Yeah, overall, I don't think the team played terribly. I think we kind of temper our enthusiasm with this squad overall. Everybody realizes what the situation is in terms of where this team is right now, and certainly there's an eye on the future with every game. But a day off comes at a good time, a chance to get ready to take on a Miami Marlins team that has been better than some people expected, that has been picking it up a little bit. And a guy that'll toe the rubber tomorrow night in Game 1 will be Julio Teheran. I think all eyes will be very curious to see which Julio Teheran shows up, because he hasn't pitched like an ace thus far this year, and he needs to for Atlanta to be competitive. So I think it'll be one of the biggest starts of that young man's career. I don't think that's an overstatement, because so far he's really been below the mark, and they need him to be above it.
Braves put Kelly Johnson on the DL, strained oblique muscle after leaving yesterday's game. What's the prognosis for him? Is this something that can be healed in 15 days?
They seem to think so. It kind of snuck up on everybody in the first place, but unlike the Mike Minor injury, which, when we talked about that yesterday, I didn't have a real good feeling from what I was hearing, and of course it was announced earlier today that it will indeed be season-ending shoulder surgery. I haven't heard anything overly serious about Kelly Johnson, but he's been a pleasant surprise. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year Kelly Johnson would lead the teams in home runs in mid-May, I would have thought you were drinking something really funky, which you might have been anyway. But in this case, you would have been right in the process. He's had a tremendous start to the season. He's a guy that really they got off the scrap heap, and so far has been good. So they'll have to find other guys now to help fill in that gap. The one thing that Freddie really likes about this team is that it is versatile. If they lose one guy, they can go ahead and fill in another. The Braves had the distinction this year of having games without having an identical lineup. Freddie had something like 30 consecutive different lineups, because he likes to mix and match now that he has some different guys he can do that with. But that is the good news. They've got other guys they can fill in. In the meantime, though, they'll just try and play some better baseball in Miami.
Post-mortem on the Cincinnati series, as you said, the Braves did not play that well. And looking back, I saw some weird swings in that series. Psychologically, just in baseball, when teams come into a place like Cincinnati, is there the tendency for hitters to try to overswing because they know they're in a bandbox, almost like saying the Green Monster effect?
Or Coors Field, for that matter, in the National League. There might be something to that. I think that certainly players kind of lick their chops when they play there, or they play in Philadelphia. There's a few Homer-friendly ballparks out there, and that is, yes. Who is Homer Henry? Find that man. But that's certainly one of them. I wouldn't use that too much as an excuse. They got cooled off a bit. Cincinnati does have some arms. I do think it's still encouraging that when you look at the regulars, they got four regular guys hitting 284 or better. Contrast that to last year, and you would have struggled to find more than one. So overall, they're getting on base and they're scoring more runs than they did a year ago. They're driving in more runs than they did a year ago. Home runs might not be identical, but that's okay. I think what this team is proving is that you can score without the long ball. You can manufacture runs if you don't strike out every other time. So that's kind of been their formula of success. The bigger issue has been a real disappointment in the starting pitching, and that starts with Teheran, then it goes to Alex Wood. They've got some issues there right now that have to be fixed sometime soon.
Mike, as always, we thank you very much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. The Braves, as I said, they're off tonight hosts Miami beginning tomorrow. As far as Major League Baseball this afternoon, some final scores. The Cubs beat the Mets. They sweep that series. The Cubs are 4 games over 500, 6-5, the final score there. Cubs over the Mets. Kansas City beat Texas this afternoon, 6-3, final score there. Detroit pounds Minnesota 13-1, 20 hits for the Tigers this afternoon. And let's see, Philadelphia beat Pittsburgh 4-2, and St. Louis edges Cleveland 2-1. And that is it for the games that have been played so far today. We'll be right back. Quick recruiting notes for you on this Thursday night. TJ Brunson, linebacker from Richland Northeast High School, picked up an offer from East Carolina. That's his most recent offer. He also has South Carolina, NC State, Georgia Southern, Louisville, and North Carolina offers at this point. Now, he's not able to go through spring practice because he's coming off hip surgery. It's very big hip surgery. He had to go in there and shave down like he said, the femur and that little ball and where it fits into the socket and all that kind of stuff.
Sound good.
Yeah, but he's fine. He's fine. He's getting a lot better. He says it's healing well. He's ahead of schedule. He's got a follow-up with his doctor coming up next week. So he's going to take some visits in June. And North Carolina is a school to keep an eye on here, too. He went there recently for a visit. He plans to go back there on June 20th. Tennessee, Florida State, and LSU, some other schools that he plans to visit here in the summer. USC recruiter Kirk Botkin has been keeping up with him, and they talk about 3 times a week, he said. They want to see him in the fall and make sure that everything looks good with his hip. And so that is what South Carolina is waiting on. He said their interest is very high, but they would not take a commitment until they see him in the fall and see how the hip is. He really enjoyed his visit to North Carolina, liked it there a lot, and he said South Carolina is still number 1 with him at this point, and he's had visits this spring, Georgia Southern, East Carolina, Appalachian State, and Louisville coming through his school. Also in basketball, Tukey Brown, the point guard from Madison, Georgia, who visited South Carolina unofficially last week, did not get an offer from South Carolina, but was still getting some interest from them. He took a visit to Georgia Southern yesterday, and he has now committed to Georgia Southern. So he is off the board as far as everybody is concerned. Originally committed to Mississippi State, and when the coaching change occurred there, he got out of that commitment, and now he's headed to Georgia Southern. All right, there you go with a couple of recruiting notes on this Thursday night. Let's quickly jump to the phones and see if we can no. There is no way we can sneak in this phone call in 30 seconds or so. So if he wants to hold on, we'll take him in the next hour. It's worth the wait for all involved. We'll see if he has the patience and the fortitude to hang on through the top of the hour break. Top of the hour break is coming up down in Tallahassee. Clemson is trailing Florida State 1-0. And they're playing the top of the third.
Hey, they got them right where they want them. Spot them 9 more.
Yeah.
They have to give them 10 runs like they did
I
Furman.
don't know about this.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd try that either.
South Carolina, LSU about to get underway. College of Charleston has already lost today up at Northeastern. That's for a team hoping to host a regional. That's a very painful loss for the Cougars. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@talkme.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, and K-Mac, Kevin McCrary. Catch you up on a couple of things here quickly. Florida State continues to lead Clemson 1-0. They go to the top of the fourth inning in Tallahassee. South Carolina and LSU just underway. First man up, first man out for LSU against South Carolina over at Carolina Stadium. All right, to the phones we go. Well worth the wait, I'm sure, for all involved as we welcome in the de facto mayor of the city of Charleston, the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, and the man who is holding Tom Brady's cell phone so the NFL can't get its hands on it. It's not Jim Rome. He's busy doing a lousy show on Showtime. It's Jay Rome, who we'd love to have on television somewhere if we could only find a network to take him. Jay Rome?
Hey, Phil.
Yes, Jerome.
I know you having a hard time, talking about, your Boston Celtics, but I want you to send a nice little note for me to Kelly, Baron Von Raschke, Lars and Ole Anderson, the Undertaker, Olenek, okay?
Huh?
Nice move breaking the guy's shoulder.
Well,
I
mean,
haven't heard you or Boston Bobby talk about it.
That's is Bobby a Celtics fan?
Hey, he can be any fan you want him to be.
It's you know what?
What week it is.
It's just a casualty of war. It's just a casualty of war. It's
right.
part of doing the job.
That'll be really nice when you're trying to woo him to Boston this summer.
Listen, I mean, he needs to toughen up those shoulder muscles, get in the weight room, pump some iron, and tighten those things up a little bit.
Yeah, Jerome, Olenek apologized, but Love wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Oh, of course not. Hey, by the way, when the 55th season of Dancing with the Stars starts up again in the fall, I have two primo contestants, Tom Brady and Rob Domkowski, the guy who said he hasn't read a book since the ninth grade, okay? And you went to college? You went to the University of Arizona? How do you pull that off? Can you say grade fixing, test taking?
Maybe he just has natural intelligence. Some people do have that, Jerome. Natural intelligence, yes.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, why
maybe he has street
He's
intelligence.
a genius.
He might have some. Almost went to Clemson. Remember, Clemson was in his Final Five.
They wanted him to read a book, so he said no.
Does that mean he didn't read the playbook either?
Was that a cheap shot, Phil?
No. I'm just saying Clemson was in his Final Five.
Why are you taking shots at Clemson?
Just make an effective statement. Go ahead, Jerome. Quickly.
They should be the newest contestants on Dancing with the Stars. Because when anyone asks them a question about this whole Deflategate, they get this funny, squirrely look in their eyes, and you're not going to get a straight answer out of them.
Well, the NFL's become pretty good at dancing around these tricky questions. I wouldn't be surprised with what's happening here either. Thank you, Jerome. We'll be right back. All right, over at South Carolina, you talk about Max Schrock and what he means. Home run to right field, 1-0 South Carolina with 2 outs in the bottom of the first. That's amazing what Max Schrock has been able to do with his injury situation. Gets a home run tonight to stake the Gamecocks to the early 1-0 lead. And Clemson has tied it up in Tallahassee. Let's see how they did it. Okie with a double to left center and RBI, scoring Roman, so 1-1. So there's hope all around right now, early on. Clemson and Florida State 1-1 in the fourth. USC leading LSU 1-0 in the bottom. We're able to get the Tigers out without any damage in the top of the first inning. Of course, there's other baseball. We mentioned that the College of Charleston lost its game today up at Northeastern. What did they do? They gave up 3 runs in the
3-run homer.
3-run homer.
Bottom of the ninth.
Bottom of the 10th. They
Bottom
were
of the
up
10th.
2 in the top of the 10th,
Ooh.
and then gave up 3 runs on a 3-run homer with 1 out in the bottom half.
That's a tough
Bet
loss
you
for
started
them.
with a walk.
Some other scores. Louisville leading NC State 2-0. That's in the top of the third. And let's see here. What else is happening in terms of SEC, ACC, and around the state? ACC, we've got Pittsburgh leading Virginia Tech 1-0, top of the third. Notre Dame has beaten Boston College 10-4. Wake Forest and Duke 1-1, top of the third. Everything else just getting underway in the ACC. Atlantic Sun, Upstate, and Jacksonville scoreless, bottom of the second. Big South, Presbyterian and Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern is leading 1-0. It's in the top of the fifth with a 5-2 lead on Coastal Carolina as they play the top of the third. Coastal Carolina win games to host a regional, and it would certainly help them to win out and put them in a position to make a very strong argument as a regional host. SEC, Tennessee leading Mississippi State 2-1 in the bottom of the third inning. Of course, South Carolina, back in the Southern Conference, Citadel leading Furman 4-3, top of the fourth, and that is the only Southern Conference game involving state teams tonight. South Carolina has already clinched a spot in the upcoming SEC tournament. You know, the bottom 2 teams in the league, they get left at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important that South Carolina first clinch a spot in the SEC tournament. And Mississippi State and Tennessee and Georgia, really, those are the 3. Mississippi State, Georgia, and Tennessee. Mississippi State with 8 league wins, the same as Tennessee, but Mississippi State has 1 extra loss, 8-19. Tennessee's 8-18, and Georgia 9-17. Alabama's kind of in that competition too for missing out. They're 11-16, so mathematically they could still be passed by Georgia if Alabama gets swept this weekend. But here's the thing from South Carolina's standpoint. Correct me if I'm wrong. Georgia beat the Gamecocks in their series, correct?
So they got the tiebreaker.
Well, no. I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
They don't have – South Carolina's in. They don't have to worry about that. But what I'm pointing out here is the bottom teams beat the Gamecocks in series. Mississippi State took a series from the Gamecocks, correct? 2-1. And didn't Tennessee beat them as well in the series in Knoxville?
I think so.
So my point here is that the 3 – and they didn't play Alabama – the 3 teams at the bottom, those are the 3 worst teams in the SEC, beat the Gamecocks head-to-head in their series. Yet South Carolina has series wins over Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, 2 of the top teams in the league, 2 of the top teams in the country, and now they're going to try the same thing against LSU. It's just been that kind of a weird season for the Gamecocks. The bottom feeders have given them trouble this year. And, of course, they've had their troubles in their midweek games as well. It's been that kind of unusual year. Games that ordinarily in series, they ordinarily had no trouble winning. They've had trouble this year. And then, you know, they've risen to the occasion, especially here of late, against better opposition.
Well, I think probably also, shifting in lineup, trying to get a lineup that's going to be concrete and can hit the baseball, and the fact that also in recent games they've been better with the glove. They played better defense.
Georgia took 2 out of 3 in Columbia. Remember that? 6-5. That was the game that started one day and finished the next. That was an 11-inning game, then 4-3, and the Gamecocks won the third game. So the USC's 3 series wins this year against Kentucky. Remember, they opened up 3-0. They swept Kentucky, and that looked really good because everybody thought Kentucky was going to be very good this year. It hasn't turned out to be the case. But that was an impressive way to start. But then their only other SEC series wins have come against Vanderbilt, which is very impressive. So if they were to win this series against LSU, they would have won 4 SEC series this year, and they would have, if they can sweep LSU, they end up 500 in the league. If they can win the series, under 500 in the league. So they do. If that's the case, they do end up kind of making a strong finish and salvage something from the season, and perhaps that would be enough to put them on the bubble, and then they go to the SEC tournament. Win a game or 2 there, and that would be enough to get them in. It's going to be very, very close for the Gamecocks, though. They're 58 in the RPI going into tonight's game. And any win over LSU, even though they're playing at home, any win over LSU is going to boost them in the RPI because of the competition that they're facing. South Carolina beginning tonight at 56. They were 58. They're 56 this week. LSU going into tonight's series, LSU was 5 in the RPI.
And this time last week, South Carolina was 74.
Before the Texas A&M series.
Yes.
Yeah. So you beat good teams, especially they benefited from being on the road,
right,
and beating Texas A&M. That really boosted them. But beating LSU, even though they're at home, would give them a chance to really beef up the RPI, which they're going to need here when decision time comes next week. The SEC Big 12 matchups for the basketball showdowns on January 30th. South Carolina is not participating in this year's event. Let's see what some of the better matchups are, if there are any really good ones. Well, Kentucky at Kansas. That'll be good.
Can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that'll be good. Oklahoma at LSU. That should be good. Let's see what else looks good. Maybe Iowa State at Texas A&M. Maybe Vanderbilt at Texas. Vanderbilt, I don't think they lost too many players from this year's team. I don't think they had too many transfer out besides Shelton Mitchell. Seeing them in person this past season, a couple of 3 times. They were young. They improved as the season went on. I think Vanderbilt, you got to keep an eye on them this coming year as being maybe an up-and-comer in SEC basketball.
And they play at Texas. And an intriguing matchup because you don't know how these teams may improve or may get worse is Georgia at Baylor. Baylor always seems to come up with a long, athletic team that has a couple of three-point shooters and some solid rebounding. And Georgia – after Thornton has completed his 10 years of eligibility, we'll see what Georgia has out there. It seems that he's been with Georgia for 10 years.
All right, still 1-1, Clemson, Florida State. Bottom of the 4th. Florida State has a runner on first. And South Carolina, LSU, 1-1. And the Tigers are batting in the top of the 2nd inning, and we'll be right back. All right, I didn't really pay attention to what happened there before we hit the break. LSU tied it up with South Carolina on a home run. It's 1-1 in the top of the second inning. The home run by LSU from their first baseman, Chris Chinia. And so he ties it up 1-1, South Carolina and LSU. LSU has a runner on first as well with 2 outs. Clemson, Florida State, it is still 1-1 as they play now going to the top of the 5th. So Clemson hanging in there. Of course, you would expect with Crown over on the mound that it would be a low-scoring game and that Clemson would have a chance here if they can muster 2 or 3 runs, give them an excellent chance to win that ball game. The Wells Fargo Championship over in Charlotte. First round today. We touched on it earlier when Trey Dyson was with us. Robert Streb, a 765. Patrick Reed, Kevin Chappelle, 666. Webb Simpson, Ricky Barnes, Michael Thompson, Stuart Sink, Chesson Hadley, Billy Hurley III. They're all at 567. Now, this tournament normally draws a lot of big names. They've got some, not marquee names that they've had in the past. No Tiger Woods, for example. Kevin Kisner, though, boy, he is playing some great golf, isn't he?
Is he?
Just a matter of time before he cashes that winner's check for the first time. 3 under 69. Rory McIlroy, 2 under 70. Apparently, Rory's not going to play in Jack's tournament, the Memorial, for some reason. I didn't read the reason. Don't know why, but I saw where he was apologizing to Jack for not playing in it. Lucas Glover and Scott Brown and Phil Mickelson and Boo Weekley, 1 under 71. Bill McGirt, 72, along with Jonathan Bird and Bill Haas. And Ben Martin, who's been playing so well, had a 74. And Sam Saunders out of Clemson, Arnie's grandson, he shoots a 3 over par 75 over there in Charlotte. So you're up to date on that. And any other baseball that we need to update involving, I guess, the Coastal game? Got to keep an eye on that. Let me double check and see what's happening there. Coastal was trailing Campbell in Bowie's Creek last time we checked. Big game for Coastal as they are trying to win as many games as possible to be able to possibly host a regional. And they're now down 5-4 in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Winthrop and Longwood underway. They're scoreless. Gary Gilmore has done a heck of a job with Coastal Carolina this year. Remember when we had him on from Baseball at the Beach early in the year, and he talked about how the young team, 2 of their starting outfielders were injured early in the year. They have not been able to come back to form yet, but they are 34-16 and 16-5 in their conference going into tonight's game. RPI inside the top 20 with a chance, if they can win a bunch more games here down the stretch and in their tournament, to possibly earn a regional host bid. We'll be right back. All right, Clemson has gone on top in Tallahassee in the 5th inning. Steven Duggar, a single through the right side for an RBI. Tigers up 2-1, top of the 5th inning. They are hanging tough. I tell you what, they could, and they've got runners on the corners with one out. Boy, they could get a couple of run lead on Florida State with Crownover going for them. You got to like their chances because I can only think of one other time this year, maybe twice, where Crownover had a lead and let it get away from him. And that could have been because of his defense breaking down as it has time and again for Clemson this year. They've already committed an error in this game. 2-6-1, 3 left for Clemson, 1-3-0, 4 left for Florida State at this point. And over Columbia, top of the 3rd, and South Carolina is leading LSU LSU and USC are tied at 1 in the top of the 3rd. Gamecocks just sat down in the bottom of the 2nd inning, so they remain tied at 1. One other note about LSU, their starting second baseman was suspended. Jared Foster, starting second baseman, he was ruled academically ineligible last week, but he was reinstated after an obscure NCAA rule was uncovered that restored his eligibility. This was in this is a report out of Louisiana. Well, he says here, quote, "I just sat down for a second, just took a deep breath, and I was like, second chance. In the first place, I did it to myself, and ultimately I take full responsibility for it, but very thankful it came through this way." Let's see here. But it doesn't tell you in this story. I got to look further. It doesn't tell you in this story what obscure NCAA rule was uncovered that restored his eligibility. Let's do a quick search here on Jared Foster and see if we can find out more. Had you heard this before, K-Mac? This
First
is new
I've
news.
heard of this one, yeah.
Let's go to the Advocate.
As opposed to the other obscure rules.
Yeah,
and
I thought every
rule.
rule in the NCAA guidelines
answered
was obscure.
prayer. Let's see. There's a declared ineligible was reinstated at the school discovered he is still eligible by NCAA standards to compete, even though a grade in one of his courses fell short of counting toward his sports administration major. Okay. So he was in the starting lineup tonight. Let's see if there's more details here. Former LSU baseball academic advisor Becca Hubbard, who now works for LSU's Office of Enrollment Management on the academic side of campus, was attending a conference at NCAA headquarters in Indianapolis this week and discussed Foster's case with a top NCAA eligibility official. She called Paul Manieri, the LSU coach, on Tuesday afternoon and to tell him about bylaw 14.4.3.1.7.1. Okay, that's the obscure bylaw.
Okay.
It allows senior student athletes to maintain their eligibility if they pass at least 6 hours of classes that apply to any major the school offers.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Initially, Foster was ruled ineligible because one of his grades, he said it was in a facilities management class, wasn't high enough to count toward his major. And Maneri said once we found out that rule, it was very clear he shouldn't have been ineligible to begin with. Blah, 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 blah. So again, the bylaw is that it allows senior student athletes to maintain their eligibility if they pass at least 6 hours of classes that apply to any major. So it doesn't have to apply to your major. It can be any major in the school as long as you. So there you go. That's pretty good job there by that lady at LSU to uncover that and get the young man back in the lineup. He was hitting .275 with 8 home runs and 29 RBIs this season. And he is in the lineup tonight for LSU. Okay. And Clemson, anything else out of the top of the 5th? So it's 2-1 going to the bottom of the South Carolina, and LSU are tied at 1. let's see what else is going on. Update Major League Baseball tonight. Of course, the Braves are off tonight, and they'll be opening up a series against Miami beginning tomorrow night. Major League Baseball going on this evening. Tampa Bay with a 1-0 lead over the Yankees, trying to win their third straight against the New Yorkers. San Francisco 1-0 over Cincinnati. And final score, St. Louis beat Cleveland 2-1. Philadelphia over Pittsburgh 4-2. Detroit down Minnesota 13-1. 3. And the Cubs beat the Mets 6-5. Have you seen pictures or video of the work going on at Wrigley Field? Everything they're changing up there?
I've seen some.
Is that finally done?
The
bleachers are open again. I know that.
Yeah, I think it's ongoing. I think what's a catastrophe?
The bleachers, they weren't ready for opening day, and they had to put tarps up, and it's essentially been a construction zone.
Yeah. And the Cubs are playing very good baseball. I think they're 4 games over 500
there's
right
another
now.
thing that's under construction, the Cubs.
Well, they feel like they've got some good young players. The young first baseman, Bryant, who they had down in the minors.
The third baseman.
It's a third baseman?
22, I think
he's I was listening to their game on the way in, and he's having a really good year. He's got 20 RBIs. He had 20 RBIs going into this game, and this is for a guy that missed, the first 9 games. They did that so they could save some money and keep him locked up for an extra year. Had he joined the team at the beginning of the year, he would have been eligible for free agency at an earlier date than now. He'll be eligible for free agency by keeping him out for those first 9 games. Yeah, that's the rules, man.
I know, but the Cubs got a little coin. That seems petty to me.
Well, I mean,
but unless they're afraid that if he becomes a free agent, he'll bolt.
Well, of course they're concerned about that, But he is supposed to be a heck of a talent. So good win today for the Cubs, and they're playing good baseball. And the Mets they sweep that series against the Mets at Wrigley Field. And we're kind of at that point in the year, guys, where as far as the colleges go, it's baseball and it's NCAA golf tournament and a little bit of track and field. And then we're done for the year, right? And I saw where the ACC rowing championships will be taking place at Clemson. So we got rowing.
That's big. Going up there for that. Let's see if we can get Sports Talk dinghy out of dry storage and bring it over there to Lake Hartwell.
Isn't Clemson, though?
Do some coverage.
Clemson engineers made the cement rowing boat that won a championship or something.
I don't know.
Don't you remember that?
I don't know if I'd want to get on a cement boat. That sounds like a one-way trip to the bottom of the lake.
I'm going to have to look that up now. Clemson engineers.
That sounds like something the Goodfellas would make.
Yeah.
That stuff was.
No, I think it was a cement rowing boat. And there was a competition among engineering students who could come up with a cement, Clemson concrete canoe team. That's what it is. Concrete Canoe National Championship. There is such a thing, yes. And it's going to be held at Clemson, as a matter of fact.
I'm trying to wonder.
As I look this up, let's see here.
For the sake of argument, I always thought that concrete breathes. It's porous. So what did they seal it with?
The 2015 Concrete Canoe National Championship will be held at Clemson June 20th through the 22nd. I'm serious. I do not make this up. And let's see if we have any recent winners.
What do they use for paddles?
There we go. Recent winners. How do you Concrete Canoe, the 2014 competition. The winner came back. I will give you right now. I will write you a check for $1 million.
Well, first of all, you don't have $1 million.
You don't know what's in my bank account.
That's the first thing now.
You do not know what's in my bank account.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume.
Hypothetically talking.
$3 that I won with the Lakers.
Who do you think? Who do you think won last year?
You're going to pay me the $1 million.
Who do you think won last year?
Georgia Tech.
No, University of Nevada, Reno.
That was my second guess.
213. Didn't Clemson win this thing one time before? Maybe not. We'll be right back.
Great stuff.
By the way, Clemson has won the concrete canoe championship in the past. Back in 1999, I believe it was, the Tigers won it. And, that was held at the Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne.
Okay, well, they seem to have cemented their position in that sport.
Well, they won it in, you know what? They won it back-to-back. I didn't know that. You know that, K-Mac? 99 and 2000.
Yeah, I did know that.
And the 2000 competition was at the Colorado School of Mines. That's MINES in Golden, Colorado. I'm just a concrete canoe float.
Very carefully.
And move forward. I don't, I guess must be, and I guess people get in it. I mean, I don't know.
They use that stuff they see on the 1-800 Flexi.
I wonder if they're using a little NASCAR technology in there too. You know how these engineers are? They get together and they're all trying to one up the next guy and come up with some.
Well, I tell you what, as we said earlier,
behind the scenes way to make something work better.
As we said earlier, talking about engineering, these games tonight, if you're talking about these tie games, South Carolina and Clemson, it behooved them to get a lead now for their two aces. Well, because to win these two series, they will have to win tonight's game.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt about
it. South Carolina, LSU 1-1, top of the fourth. 1-3-0 for the Gamecocks, 1-3-0 for the Tigers. Both have left two. Gamecocks scored their run in the first on a home run by Max Schrock, and LSU scored its run in the second, and they scored their game on a home run. One went to right field. Schrock's did. No big surprise there. He's a big left-handed hitter. And LSU's homer went to left center. So 1-1 as they play the top of the fourth. Clemson and Florida State, they're going to the sixth, and it's still 2-1 Tigers. 2-6-1 for Clemson. They've left four. Florida State 1-4-0 and has left five. And let's check out what Crownover has done on the mound and how many pitches. 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 strikeout, 2 walks. He's faced 21 batters. This is a little iffy now. Going into the 6th inning, when he goes out on the mound, the bottom of the 6th, he'll throw his 90th pitch coming up. So what do you figure he's got left? About 30 more pitches, around the 120 pitch mark or so?
If you jack-legged, the way that bullpen has been gasoline, he's got another – he'll go 130 pitches if it takes that.
I don't know if he'll do that, but 55 for strikes. So another good outing for Crownover, who has lowered his ERA or maintained his ERA at about 1.45.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Having a great year. And, boy, it'd be huge for Clemson if they can find a way to pull this thing out. 2-1, Clemson leading Florida State as they play in the top of the 6th inning. Let's see here. If you're just tuning in as well and you missed the news on the golf tournaments, South Carolina and Clemson are, pretty much about where you would expect them to be in NCAA tournament regional. At or near the top, the Tigers are tied for 3rd in Chapel Hill. They're at 284, 9 shots back of your leader, which is Charlotte. And Charlotte had 3 players shoot 68.
Wow.
Their high score was an 80, which you throw out. And then their next score was 71. So their counting scores were 3 68s and a 71. That's good playing right there. Florida next, 6 shots back. Florida State and Clemson tied at 284. The rundown for the Tigers, Billy Kennerly had a 67. Austin Langdale, a 72. Stephen Baer had a 72. Cody Provo had a 73, and Miller Capps had a 74.
And, of course, this is a 54-hole event. And correct me if I'm wrong, the top 5 teams go to the national tournament.
And among individuals, Coastal Carolina's Andrew Dorn shot a 70. He's tied for 13th. Winthrop's Zach Seabolt shot a 72. He's tied for 22nd. And Upstate's Ryan Cornfield.
Nice name.
Actually, I think that's – let me check something here for a second. No, it is not Stephen.
Stephen Cornfield. Actually, it's Corn Maze. Is
Children
his real
of the
last name.
cornfield.
No, it's Cornfield. Hey, how about that? Nice name. 73.
I avoid anybody that has corn in their name.
He is tied for 30th. Coastal's Ben Wheeler had a 74, and he is tied for 43rd. And South Carolina playing out at Washington. They're in 6th place. We'll give you their details in a moment.
That leaky roof will cost you thousands in repair. Hi, Phil Swift here. Everyone knows Flex Seal is the easy way to coat, seal, and stop leaks fast. And when you want to use the strength of Flex Seal on surfaces that are light, you're going to love new Flex Seal Bright. The same incredible.
All right, LSU looking for a big inning in the 4th against the Gamecocks. They've already pushed one across. It's 2-1, a single to center field by Mr. Foster. Oh, Jared Foster. There you go. The guy that was just reinstated. Well, he gets an RBI single to center field to put LSU on top 2-1. And the Tigers, with one out, they have the bases loaded against Winecoop. So big moment in this game.
Oh, boy.
Got to go for the double play.
Here it comes.
Meantime, Clemson, no one out, 1st and 2nd, top of the 6th. Tigers are leading Florida State 2-1. So they got a chance to add to their lead and make themselves feel pretty good about things. We were talking about the golf tournaments. South Carolina out in Washington. Gamecocks are in 6th after shooting a 288 score, and they're 8 shots back of your leader, which is UAB. And the Gamecock scores today were all pretty consistent. It was one of those days where they were all pretty good, but nobody just really blew anybody away. Nobody shot in the 60s. Matt Neesmith had a 71, as did Sean Kelly. Will Stark a 73, as did Will Murphy. And Caleb Sturgeon had a 77.
And the top 5 teams from each regional move on
to the NCAA tournament.
Where's Washington? By the way?
Championship.
Where's Washington in that?
Washington is in 4th, tied for 4th.
Okay.
UW.
Yeah, that's their home course, I guess. They play there a lot, I guess.
Double to left field for LSU. Scores 2.
Ooh.
4-1.
4-1.
4-1 LSU over South Carolina.
It's getting pretty ugly over at Carolina Stadium.
It's only 4-1, K-Mac. That's not that
This is
ugly.
LSU. It's
No,
the
it's-
bases are there's still 2 on, 1 out.
One out. Mm-hmm. Clemson has scored a run. Jolly reached on an error by the catcher on a sacrifice bunt, advanced to second on the error. Oki advanced to second and then to third on the error. And Roman eventually came in to score on that error. So an unearned run for the Tigers. They'll take it. They're up 3-1, and they have 8 hits. So Florida State and Clemson, Tigers are up 3-1. They're playing in the 6th. The Gamecocks and LSU, the Tigers are up 4-1. They're playing in the 4th. LSU is still threatening 1 out and runners on 2nd and 3rd. Who's going to win the NBA games tonight?
It will be Chicago taking it to a 7th game, and I think Houston gives up the ghost tonight, and the Clippers will go to the Western Conference champions.
Well, at least somebody in Los Angeles is still playing basketball here in May. Any thoughts on that, Kid?
As is usually the case, there's almost always a team.
That's usually the Clippers now from here on out. For
From
the rest
here
of
on
our
out,
lives.
yeah,
For the rest of
yeah.
our lives.
You
Have a great night,
won't
everyone.
be around much longer.
We'll
that's
see you
true.
tomorrow.